Hey guys, good night, evening, whatever. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't usually do videos this late, but I have other things to do. I had to put out some stuff today, edition stuff and things like that. And then we watched the Marvels and a Batman animated series episode. We'll do a review for the Marvels next week. We were just too tired to do one today. So obviously, it's a good idea for me to do another video about the Spider-Verse. I actually did one last week, and I felt like it was too rambly, so I'm trying to keep it more focused. The idea behind this was, if you saw the other Spider-Verse videos I did, that was more of an akin of taking the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies and just kind of following up on them, which was supposed to lead to their Sinister Six, which was what their big plan was. So I did that video, and you can watch that one, and then I think I did 2 parts of that, so I kind of followed up on those and where those would go and stuff. But this is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be more along the lines of what I've done with horror sequels. If you've watched some of those, the Halloween ones, or Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, I would do like sort of ideas of like, how would I follow this up from what I've been given. So like, the rule of thumb is that I basically can't change too much from what happened already. Now, maybe a character ends up not being dead, or whatever the case. But I feel like the worst thing about this universe, this Sony Spiderverse thing, is that they really haven't made any connections between the characters. Because, Venom is just Venom. He's there. Okay, he's the thing. And then Venom 2, Carnage comes in, all that stuff. But, like, we're not hearing about Morbius. We're not hearing about Madam Web or Spider-Women or Kraven the Hunter or any of these other characters at all. Or like a reference to Black Cat or Spider-Man himself, other than this weird Morbius thing in the trailer with Spider-Man Wanted thing, which was really weird. But like, I feel like that's the biggest thing here, is that we're not making connections to the other characters. So if you're going to, regardless of what we have to work with here, or what they've already presented, which has not been particularly great, we feel like, I feel like the connections, if the idea behind this is to sort of have an Avengers style team, whether it's a Sinister Six like villain thing, or whether it's supposed to be an anti-hero team, whatever the plan is, Sony has not done a very good job of presenting that plan whatsoever, because it's not like Venom and Morbius have met each other. The biggest thing they did was that terrible after credit scene with Morbius, where Vulture interacts with them and, hey, let's start a team, I guess. But like, that was really half-assed and no effort whatsoever in it, and was horrible and laughable. But as I say, I'm going to treat this as I've been brought in to try to fix this and try to make it at least salvageable. I'm not saying I'm a genius by any means, but at least what I did is I actually took time to look up a lot of characters in the Venom universe, characters in Morbius, even some Madam Web, Spider-Women stuff. And I also just looked up all the characters that Sony actually technically has the right to use. Over 900 characters. Some characters I never even heard of. And I've read a decent amount of Spider-Man comics and that like that, but like, I who the hell is this character? Like me and Anna I had this book of Spider-Man comic books, from the original run. And like, you get your first appearance of Doc Ock and Vulture and Mysterio and things like that, and then you have things like the Living Brain, and we just read, what was it, the Enforcers, which is literally like this big guy named Ox, Fancy Dan, who's this little guy that does judo, and then what was the guy, Big Man was the leader, and some guy in a mask ends up being some guy that works at the Daily Bugle, like that. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? But like, they weren't intimidating, they were laughable. I'm just like, what the fuck is this guy? So the Enforcers movie comes straight to you from the Sonyverse. That's the first movie of our universe. We're starting. No, I'm kidding. But we did have fun reading it. That's one of the plans eventually, is to do sort of a, we're going to get like a Marvel Unlimited thing, and we're going to try to do kind of a podcast around Spider-Man a little bit. Because in case you haven't seen some of my little Spider-Man toys or seen me with it, I'm kind of a Spider-Man freak. That was very important for me to do that in the video. So, like I said, I want to try to follow up and see if I can make some loose connections. Because I guess the idea is here for this case, and I want to follow that, is not changing anything that's already happened. So everything from Venom through basically Venom 3, which hasn't come out yet, and Kraven hasn't come out yet. So I can't really follow those movies yet because they haven't come out yet. But we can go through Madam Web, which I haven't actually seen, but I've at least had enough of a spoiler review to see what happens, which apparently is not a whole lot. Or at least what's set up, basically. But I can kind of follow up on some of these movies. I can do what I need to do following these movies. So we start with Venom. Now, the ideal thing would be that there would be a Spider-Man in these things, whether it be Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire or Tom Holland or Miles Morales or whatever. But there would be some kind of Spider-Person interacting with these characters, ideally. But for the sake of what we're working with here, and since they just seem to be anyway. See, allergies are really acting up today. Like my eyes are really watery and I'm stuffy, so apologies for that. But being that this is the Sonyverse and we really don't seem to have a plan or shuffling our feet on introducing a goddamn Spider-Person, then I guess we're going to try to make kind of Venom sort of the central character of this thing. And I think that's the main thing. I feel like we're doing too much with this anti-hero thing and like all these technically villains outside. Venom's Lethal Protector and stuff like that. And Morbius is getting kind of, teeter the line. But like, I feel like all these characters should not just be like heroes or anti-heroes. I feel like you have to have some balance because otherwise, who are they fighting? Like, it's like, who are they really fighting? It's like, anyway. So, Venom has happened. First Venom has happened. We have the after credits scene with him and Carnage. Now, obviously, Venom 2 happened. But we can also look at this as, like I said, I can do anything I want in between here to set up some things. So this will be kind of the first part will be me introducing my version of Venom 2. So while I can't change what happens in that Venom 2, we'll start with Venom and follow up from there and kind of, give my version of what I would have done with Venom 2. So I still think there were good elements of Venom 2. I think that the actual CGI on Carnage looked pretty good overall. But there's definitely some changes I would make to it. But here's what we're working with. So, in Venom, of course, just to reiterate, he gets the symbiote. There's a brief reference to John Jameson, the astronaut. He gets this, like, his name mentioned. But, which in the comics, if you remember, I think it was actually his flight that brought the symbiote back or whatever, and that's how it kind of got to Spider-Man and all that. But if I'm recalling, I could be completely wrong. But yeah, so the symbiote, that's happened, all that stuff. So there's that stuff, and Riot was a thing, and he fought Riot in a really badly lit scene. But overall, fun movie, not bad. So good start. And then we had Woody Harrelson in a really bad wig, and the after credits scene, setting up Carnage and Venom, which is great. I feel as though Carnage, to me, I would say he's pretty much, for the most part, with maybe a few exceptions, probably one of his biggest villains. You could probably throw Nolan there and things like that, but I would say, traditionally, I'd say Carnage has been more established. He's kind of, if he was to be a Green Goblin-esque character for Venom, I would say he would kind of be his kind of big bad, more or less. So I don't think we should completely waste Carnage like he will be in this movie, but I feel like we should let it build. I feel like they kind of rushed into it, and hey, the movie was called Let There Be Carnage, so I get it, I understand what they were doing, but they rushed into it as opposed to letting it build. I think one of the things, while I'm kind of admittedly getting kind of over jokered on things because there have been so many Jokers the last couple of years, I will give Matt Reeves credit that he's not immediately just throwing Barry Keoghan into full-on Joker and full-on the big bad guy, so that we know what's going on with that. What am I saying? I don't know. I'm allergic. But anyway, but yeah. So we want to build that up. We want to extend that kind of thing. I would actually have several scenes starting with him visiting him for months and letting that build and all that, so that we get to a point where he gets to become Carnage. Now, I actually want Eddie Brock to actually be, skirting the line of the law a little bit more. I want there to be some cops after him, some detectives after him a little bit, so that he actually maybe even gets put in jail. Because if you remember, guys, in the comics, he gets arrested, and then part of his symbiote gets on to Cletus Cassidy, who's in his cell. And that's how he becomes, Carnage and stuff like that. And that's how the whole Maximum Carnage thing blows up. Now, Maximum Carnage is a big event that does involve Spider-Man. So, I will say there are options we can go with there for this Venom 2 movie. Now, I think that it's interesting that they went with Venom, and then Venom 2 was their very next movie. Kind of like how Iron Man, and then, had the Hulk, and then there was Iron Man 2 before they did Morbius and all that. So, anyway, woo! So, Venom 2 will start kind of with him interacting, but not having, like I said, not having the Joker full on out, but having sort of him behind the scenes a little bit, sort of building that tension. He's been interviewing him because he's going for this whole journalist thing, and you build that up. But I think then you have to have somebody to kind of be the villain of the movie before that. Now, like I said, we kind of need a Spider Person. If we're going to have Maximum Carnage, you kind of need at least some kind of ally for him that can help him out. So, let me look at my little list here of people from the Venom universe that could potentially be either allies. Otherwise, I personally think that we should introduce... Sorry, just a sec here, guys. Yeah, that'd be good. I think that what we would do here in this case is I would actually introduce Flash Thompson into this universe. Since the whole Agent Venom thing and all that stuff, I feel like we need to kind of, maybe Flash Thompson, in this case, I don't really like that they moved him to San Francisco. It's kind of weird, but maybe Flash Thompson's out there. Maybe, because he did serve, in the Marines or whatever, so it's like he could be out there for, like, doing some training or something like that. So we don't have to have him become Agent Venom right away. But in this particular case, using Flash Thompson, if we don't have a Spider-Man that we're going to use, although like I said, that's still on the table. Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, whoever, that's still on the table as a possibility. But I think if we're going to do that, we either need to, stop shuffling our feet about it or get right into it. So I would say right now, let's introduce Flash Thompson. He's a soldier. He's interacting with the thing. Maybe he gets involved with the whole Life Foundation thing. And even after the riot thing, the Life Foundation is still kind of a factor in this whole thing. And like I said, I would have Carnage just kind of in the background. Let's build him up a little bit, because the Maximum Carnage is such a big event that you can do so much more with it than what they did with it. And that's why I didn't like Venom 2, that they just killed him off. I'm like, it's fucking Carnage. Maximum Carnage, motherfuckers. Come on. It's such a big event, you could do so much more with it. Like have Spider-Man. But anyway, let's focus on what's going on here. So like I said, let's just say our hands are tied right now. We can't use Tom Holland's Spider-Man. We're not using Tobey Maguire. We're not doing it. So either we introduce another version of Spider-Man or Spider-Girl or whatever, or we just go ahead and say, well, Venom is going to fill in that Spider role. Venom is going to be our main hero of this universe, and that's what we're going to go with. He's probably the most popular character we're using. So let's go with Venom as our main focal point of the universe. So if that's the case, we can still have some allies, though. That's where Flash Thompson can come in. Let's say they kind of hit it off. Maybe even reference Peter Parker. Why not? Let's say that's why he moved out to San Francisco. And Flash Thompson can be like, yeah, he's a friend of mine, but I used to pick on him. I used to be, Now, as far as what actor I would get, I don't really know. You could use the one from Amazing Spider-Man. He didn't get to do a whole lot. It would be a bigger role for him. I don't know if the actors do it much anymore. But, you could do that, or you could completely recast him. This isn't really a casting video so much, so I'm not too worried too much about who's playing the part, but I would want to have some kind of ally besides his ex-wife and all that would be beneficial to build up. As far as the villain of this film, I also think that you should use somebody else. I would want to maybe somewhat avoid going the symbiote route again, since we just did Riot. We can introduce Shriek too. Maybe she can have just a small part at first. Have her maybe interacting a little bit. Like I said, Cletus Cassidy is still going to be a big character in this film. but I don't want to just I don't want to do what they did with Spider-Man 3 and like, well, there's Venom and now Venom's gone. That's, they kind of Spider-Man 3'd him a little bit. So it's like, I like to build him up as like, boom, this is the after credit scene, boom, now he's Carnage. And let that final shot build into another movie. So basically, we've done Venom first. That one's over. We're in Venom 2. He's interacting with Cletus Cassidy a little bit. Anne is still in the picture, as well as her fiance, Doctor Guy. He's fine. And then we said we'll have a little bit of that. But, like, we introduce Flash Thompson. They interact with each other. They share stories about Peter Parker. And I think Flash knows by that point he's Spider-Man. So it's not too big of a deal. So, yeah. And maybe we can even have, like, a little bit of Flash Thompson actually getting that injury that he gets. And then maybe, we can tie in the Life Foundation with that as well. And then, maybe we can even have a thing where he gets a little bit of Venom's symbiote as well, which can form his Agent Venom. I haven't read a whole lot of Agent Venom thing, but I'm just trying to give some kind of ally to Venom so that it's not just, well, here's Venom, and here's this random villain that's suddenly an anti-hero. Anyway, back to the villain. I think we should use Scorpion. And honestly, go ahead and use Michael Mando. Because, he's not doing anything in that Tom Holland thing. He basically had one little brief scene and, Homecoming, and then he's there at the little after credit scene with Vulture, and then we haven't seen him since. Maybe he'll show up in Spider-Man 4. Who knows? But so far we haven't really used him much. So I'm like, let's use Scorpion. Plus you have he eventually gets the Venom symbiote too in the comics. So he becomes a Venomized Scorpion and all this other stuff. Or just a Venomized Matt Gannon. But let's interact with him. Let's have him actually be kind of a more important character. And he's not going to be a rival necessarily of Eddie Brock, but we can tie him in. I'm not sure exactly how they've interacted in the comics, but let's make him sort of like someone to deal with, so that he's not really going to be a symbiote. He's going to be a Scorp. He's still going to be the Scorpion in this, so that we have a little bit. Let's just give the little sim. Since we're already using a lot of CGI for Venom himself, let's not have just a big CGI battle. That doesn't look very good. Because unless you're going to make it really, really good, I will say the one, like I said, the Let There Be Carnage wasn't bad. But, yeah, you can have that very darkly lit thing, and then you have a very darkly lit character, and then it's really hard to see. So, we want to be able to see our fight. So, I would say, Venom starts to actually, he does get arrested, and maybe even framed a little bit. By Matt Gannon. Maybe that's kind of how Matt Gannon can work. And maybe Matt Gannon's working somewhere with the Life Foundation or something like that. So there might be somebody maybe pulling the strings a little bit. I won't say who right now, but there might be a character that's maybe pulling the strings a little bit behind. Because, Scorpion's always been kind of a henchman-y villain for the most part. He's never really been the lead villain. He's always just been like, yep, I'm here. I'm in the Scorpion suit. There we go. But, yeah, so he can still be kind of working for somebody, but we won't go into who he's working for at this moment. That could come later. But yeah, so I would build towards that, have a big fight with him and Scorpion, have a really awesome looking Scorpion suit, so it looks really cool. He's using the tail a lot, really flinging him around a bit. I think that'd be fun. As well as you set that up so that Venom and Carnage will interact, and maybe as he gets framed as, by Venom and all that, and gets blamed for something that Scorpion did or something like that. Then he gets arrested. That's where we can get some symbiote onto. We see this brief little thing of the symbiote gets left behind in the cell once he gets bailed out. And then we can have a nice big fight with Scorpion and Venom, which Venom will win. Maybe, Matt Gannon gets locked up or whatever. And we can even tease that maybe a little bit of the Venom got into his suit, but we won't see that now. So like I said, we're going to get like a lot of symbiotes eventually, but I'd say that much. You get that set up, you get, maybe have an injury where, and we can maybe, you're allowed to tweak a little bit, so you don't have to do exactly what happened in the comics. I think, it's a movie, it's a different medium, I understand that. I'm trying to respect most of the source material, of course, but, so I wouldn't necessarily, you don't necessarily have to have Flash Thompson necessarily have gotten injured specifically in a war or something like that. He could get injured somehow in some other kind of fight, or maybe someone shoots him in the back like he's Barbara Gordon or something, I don't know. But like, there's ways around that as well. But yeah, I like the idea of building Eddie Brock and Flash Thompson as kind of allies. so that once Flash Thompson gets the Agent Venom suit, he can kind of help, help with the fight and all that. Because we're building some big bads. We got Scorpion. We're building up our Carnage here. So after that big fight with Scorpion, then we would set up basically Maximum Carnage, and Carnage will be, and yeah, I would definitely have Carnage, maybe interacting with Scorpion a little bit. I would also start to have him interact with other villains as well. I would obviously, he'd have Shriek would show up, of course, like she did, and then you have Agony. You have there's also Jack-o'-lantern, which would be a cool villain. I think he could be fun to be part of the villain. You could build up to Null eventually as well with like a third movie, because that's an more interesting character, the symbiote god. There's a nice darkness there. Like I said, there's also a really, if you want to go a little bit CGI, and this could definitely be in a later movie as well. And like I said, we're just focusing on the Venom movies right here today. That's what this video will be about, just Venom. But you could even bring in the Xenophage, who, could they sound more like xenomorphs? But they're the alien eaters of symbiotes. So that would be an interesting and very scary, dark thing. Obviously, Maximum Carnage would need to be, I would even call him that. Maximum Carnage would be rated R, obviously. I think Cletus as Carnage should just be slicing people up left and right. Like, this, let's go for it. Let's show some blood. Let's, come on, guys. That's freaking Carnage. He's a serial killer, for God's sakes. He's already a sick asshole. So let's just go balls to the walls with it. Like Logan was with all the, it's like, let's just do it. So, like, yeah, I would build up to a Venom 3 that involves Maximum Carnage. Maybe Scorpion can get in the Venomized suit. We can get a couple other characters in there, but it would just be really balls to the walls. Build the character, build Venom up as kind of a hero of the city, and then Agent Venom as well. And then maybe we can tease a couple other characters. We can tease like Black Cat or something like that, or we can tease Silver Sable. Let's get a couple, maybe even a Spider Woman or something like that. Let's build up to that so that we have a place to go. So basically, a Venom trilogy is basically set. We're building towards Maximum Carnage. We build towards Null, so that we have something to go with. That's interesting and that people want to see, because ultimately of this universe thus far, the fence is out on, the jury's out on Kraven, but like basically in this universe, Venom is the only character that anyone gives a shit about. Let's just be honest about that. No one cared about Madam Web. Nobody cared about Morbius. It's just like, Morbius is okay as a character, but like, and Spider-Woman's fine, but like it wasn't. What are we doing here? Kraven's a popular character. I know a lot of people. I'm just like, he's kind of like, he's alright. He's a hunter. He's fine. But like, yeah, and the movie looks okay, other than the weird getting lion powers thing, which isn't a thing that Kraven does. But anyway, ultimately, like I said, I would build up on a Venom trilogy that would involve Maximum Carnage. We involve the Scorpion. We involve Null eventually, and we start to tease a couple more heroes that Venom can have, so we can build up our villains for the rest of the movies. So Morbius would definitely be more villainy. He'd still be kind of treating the line a little bit, because there is some cool characters you can bring in there as well that I was looking up that they absolutely could have used for the movie instead of what they did. But Madam Web isn't really a villain, and neither are the Spider-Woman. But then again, neither is the guy who they had be a villain. But that's a whole other issue and a whole other movie to talk about at some point. Once it comes to streaming, I'll give it a watch and see how bad it is. But it's fine. But for the purpose of these videos, I will watch it for your benefit, and I'll watch Kraven eventually too. And Venom 3, I'll depending on how it looks, I maybe see it in the theater and give some thoughts. But yeah, so that would be what we would do just with following Venom 1. Now I can do another video eventually, following what I would do after Venom 2, which would lead into Venom 3. But it'd probably be pretty similar. I would not have Carnage actually be dead, because it was just like, hey, come on, why would you get rid of Carnage so quickly? So I'm not really sure what they're going to do with Venom 3 and what the plan is in terms of characters. I guess we'll see. Hopefully it's decent. I know Tom Hardy really likes the character, so that's cool. And I think he's probably their best bet in terms of this universe. If you're going to be pushing, like, just make Venom movies. Fuck it. If you have to, just make Venom movies. People like Venom. Or find other characters that people like. People like Black Cat a decent amount, I'd say. Spider-Woman's probably got her fans, and you probably have, of course, Miles Morales when he has, or even freaking Miguel O'Hara. What the hell? I mean, the Spider-Verse has gotten a lot of popularity. Now, obviously, the other thing I think I pitched before is just like make your whole universe animated and just put it in the Spider-Verse. There you go. That's how you get all your villains in. That's how you get it. Like, there you go. It's probably your easiest thing. It's your best strength, Sony. That in your video games. That's about it. So anyway, that's kind of my pitch for sort of the start of this Sonyverse. I'll do more videos as we go along. I don't know if I'll just do a follow-up to Venom 2. Maybe I can think of some things. But that's what I would do, just to kind of establish some Venomverse-esque characters in there that we can play with. And get some, decent top-quality actors in there, too. That will at least maybe be a draw. Because that's what it used to be with certain comic book movies, is you would have, maybe your lead star wasn't as well known or was known for comedies or something like that, like putting Michael Keaton in the Batman. But then you had somewhat of a well-named actor being your villain. So, like, at least I'll give Craven credit. They have Russell Crowe in there, so that's, at least a decent big name. But, like, Jack Nicholson as a Joker, or Willem Dafoe, playing Green Goblin. It's like having someone who's more of a big name actor that can kind of be like, oh, he's in that, he's playing a villain, fuck yeah, I'm there. So I would say that, because I feel like that was one of the weaknesses of Venom, was that, like, nothing against the actor, he's fine, but, like, just that Riot and the Carlton Drake character was this kind of bland corporate guy, and we've seen that 100 times. So it's like, at least Carnage at least had some, and Shriek a little bit had some more interesting characteristics, I'd say. So yeah, I would make interesting villains that can hold the thing. And if you are going to have someone, that's not a great lead for that thing, have a great, because that's the problem also with Adam Webb. It's like, you had Dakota Johnson was probably the biggest star in the movie, outside of Adam Scott and Emma Roberts, probably, who were barely in it. And you got some rising stars, of course, the other Spider-Woman, but, like, the main guy who played the bad guy, I've never heard of him, Who the hell is he? I'm sure he's a decent actor. I've never heard of him. So that's the thing. I think that's the thing you have to understand. At the end of the day, Sony needs to understand, movies at the end of the day are for entertainment, and it is a business, which the business is to make money and get people to see your movie. If you make shit and think that it's going to get seen just because you put it out there and, oh, look, it's connected to the Spider-Man verse, but there's no Spider-Man, but I'm sure he'll be there eventually. Just wait 10 movies and then maybe eventually we'll introduce him. Okay, whatever. It's such a weird, this universe really has no reason to exist. I just fully admit that. But like I said, just like I was with the challenge of the horror movies, sometimes it's like, why would I do a follow-up to this movie? But it's fun. It's fun to do these type of videos and just kind of think of ways to try to make it work and work with what we got. So like I said, I'll do another video, maybe following Morbius, and see what we can work with that. And then after I've seen Madam Web, I will do a video that would follow that up. So this will be a continuing sets of videos, so I'm not going to just lay the whole thing out, which I kind of did last week when I filmed this originally, and I was like, that's just rambling nonsense that doesn't have a connection of what you're introducing. I didn't really have a good plan last week. I was tired. So anyway, guys, I'm all stuffed up. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think, and maybe other characters you would introduce in here that you think would help the universe. Maybe characters that people have actually heard of would be good, or at least building them up more as characters so that we get to know them. That's what Marvel was, at least used to be really good at, was like, hey, there's Hawkeye, or oh, there's Falcon. He's introduced in this movie now. Okay, cool. So we're getting to know them, so before they lead their own movies or become bigger characters in the universe, we already like them. So there's more of a like, oh, I like that character. Or like Spider-Man and Black Panther both showing up in Civil War was their first introduction before they had their own movies. That worked really well. Whereas other times they'll just be like, yep, here's a character. You have to like them because we've introduced them. I'm like, but we know nothing about them. You've done no character development whatsoever. Why do we care about these characters? It's like, there's nothing wrong with introducing an obscure character and really trying to promote them, but you have to have a good plan and a good story and a reason for people to want to watch it. And the problem with Morbius and Madam Web and stuff like that is that, like, does anyone really care about Madam Web that much as a character? She's at least in most of the comics, she's just an old lady that has connection to the spider totem thing, which I always thought was weird. But but she's not really a main character of a story. Like if you're going to just do a Spider-Woman movie, then just do a Spider-Woman movie. You could have done some good stuff with that. You may have had to work around the Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing that Jessica Drew was in, but just do a Spider-Woman movie. If you're gonna go for that character, then just go with that. Or do a Black Cat movie. People like Black Cat, so it's a popular character. You could do stuff with it. get a good actress that's solid and could play the role. There you go. It's interesting too. On a DC level, I saw a suggestion for Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney, yeah, to be Black Canary and Green Arrow, and I'm like, huh, that's not bad. That's not bad. I think they look the part okay. We'll see. We'll see what James Gunn ends up doing. I have full confidence. Some people are always like, he's not Zack Snyder. It's like, well, he doesn't need to be Zack Snyder. He's in charge of the entire universe, and I like Zack Snyder just fine, but he just sometimes just goes a little, like his comment about Batman needing to shoot people was kind of stupid, but he's not the Punisher, Zach. He's not the Punisher. So Batman has a little more, and nothing against Punisher. I like Punisher, but like he's got a little more depth than the Punisher in terms of his trauma and all this stuff. And he handles things differently. So that's a whole Batman video that we're not going to get into right now. But yeah, I have full, and everything I've seen that James Gunn has put out, I've liked. So all the Guardians movies, Peacemaker, the Suicide Squad, I've liked everything. So I'm sure the Superman movie will be solid as well. And I like a lot of the casting he's got in there, so I think it's going to be good. So yeah, I look forward to what he does with Green Arrow and Black Canary eventually, because I know he's a fan of those characters. So that'll be awesome. Yeah, my wife's a huge Black Canary fan, so she even writes, like, she actually writes a little bit of like a fan fiction. I know this is getting off topic. Let me just wrap it up. But she actually writes a little bit of fan fiction of like Arrow, but like if it was from a perspective of Black Canary and was focused more on Black Canary and getting her powers and all that stuff, which I think was just pretty good. My wife's a good writer. So anyway, I am going to wrap this up, guys, because it's already 30 minutes. So let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Even if you absolutely think the Sony universe is completely a waste of time, like I do, let's just try to see if we can make it work here. This is what Hollywood's about, baby. Let's make it work, make some money. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to sell box office. Yeah, you might have a message in your film. That's great. But you're supposed to sell box office. That's what you're supposed to do, and that's why movies get made and make money, and we get franchises and all that shit. Sometimes you'd rather some of these franchises would end, Jurassic Park, but there you go. All right, guys, have a good night. Thanks for also welcome to our new subscribers. We went from 54 to 60 today. Awesome. The puns of the day will keep coming because I have many more days of a calendar for that. So thank you for watching, guys, and have a good night.